Five-ish fangirls, I love you, and I'm one of the five-ish. In fact, I'm the biggest one of the five-ish. I am the Sixth Doctor Colin Baker, and I wish you all well. Have fun.
The tangents as we continue all the way to episode 319 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. I find that cake is an excellent solution to many of life's problems. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week with the rich table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Brittany and Troy.
This is Chrissy in Salt Lake City.
This is Sally from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone.
Hey, everybody. Hope you all aren't in a sugar coma from all that Easter candy.
Yeah.
It's half price today, by the way.
Yep.
I don't need any Easter candy. I still have Girl Scout cookies.
We inhaled those when they landed on our doorstep.
I got 2 boxes to start, and I made those last about a week, which for me is pretty good.
And then you hooked up with your dealer yet again.
And then I hooked up with my dealer and bought like 5 boxes, and I still have 3.5 left. So,
see,
so far so good.
There's a 3-year-old in my house, so cookies we can't ration cookies.
Yeah,
it just doesn't
and
happen.
I have no one to blame but myself, because Chauncey does not have a sweet tooth at all.
Really?
No. Potato chips, on the other hand, I barely touch. He inhales them like he's Kirby.
So you got sweet, he's got salty.
Exactly.
All right.
But I have to be the dealer of my own sweet, because it never occurs to him to buy anything sweet at the grocery store if I don't go with him. So hence the Girl Scout cookies.
Gotcha.
Put those suckers in the refrigerator. Doesn't even matter what kind they are all good refrigerated, not frozen. Yes. Refrigerated. Anyway, we'll talk about more desserts here in a little bit, but
yes,
we've all got
desserts are
dessert
definitely
on the
involved today.
Yes, how appropriate. Yesterday was Easter. He has risen, and peanut butter Reese eggs. Okay. First up, the news, and I forgot to add this link to the news, but convention news. We haven't really mentioned any of the PopCon guest announcements, and I've been terrible about that. Sorry.
Yeah, I haven't shared any of the FanX ones just because I'm like, I don't want to jinx it.
Will it actually happen? Yeah.
I mean, it might. I'm like, I don't want to tempt fate.
Yeah. Well, they've made some interest. Of course, PopCon being the pop culture convention, they want to cater to as many fandoms as possible. So, we've got some that you would expect at any sort of nerd gathering events, like 3 of the actors from Power Rangers Beast Morphers.
Mm-hmm.
If you're that far along in the franchise. But then also Richie and CJ Ramone from the Ramones.
Huh.
And you know what? I think like, singers, pop stars, those rock groups, they've kind of started making the rounds. Like we had a couple years back, we had some like the Backstreet Boys. Mm-hmm. Not all of them, but we had a handful of them that came, mm-hmm. and it was like, okay, you know what? Sure. Not my cup of tea, but I'm sure somebody's going to be happy that these guys are showing up. So there you go. So if you're a Ramones fan and you're going to PopCon, got you covered.
Yeah, there you go. And then we can't have one without the other. So both Rob Paulson and Maurice LaMarche, so Pinky and the Brain,
nice.
Will be making an appearance. So that's fun. I would not be surprised to hear some very familiar voices probably planning to take over PopCon over the PA system, like we've had in the past, where Wacko has made some of the Animaniacs have made announcements over the PA system in the past years. So
I believe it of Jess Harnell.
yeah,
He takes over the PA system.
yep. And then I'm very excited about this announcement, though. They just, one of the most recent guest announcements, Jim Cummings, who is like every other voice in Disney, among other things. He's been the voice of Winnie the Pooh for ages.
You need, if you haven't had a chance to yet, and you'd probably have to dig through the archives a little bit. Lou had an interview with him right before the Christopher Robin movie came out, and I love the story that he tells about when Paul Winchell basically handed off voicing duties of Tigger to him, and he said, "Take care of my little buddy." And then later, that was like not long before Paul Winchell passed away, and I'm like, Lou, you're making me cry, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's exciting. We've got Jim Cummings scheduled for FanX this year as well, so he must be making the rounds this year.
Yep.
Hopefully it pans out.
Yes. Yes.
Hello, childhood. Holy crap.
Yeah. That too. Plus we have a friend in common, so a certain Mr. Mongelo. Talk about Lou while he's not there. So PopCon coming up July 9th through 11th will be a good time had by all. I really hope that the event happens, because I miss, as much as I miss just seeing my friends and stuff in general. There's you know how much I love PopCon, and to like finally go back to that will be like, yes, normalcy.
Yeah, it's yes, all of the above.
I needed this. So there is that. And then we got some trailers, including our Gee, I wonder why they released this now. It's not like the NCAA tournament is happening, so people are all glued into basketball at the moment or anything.
Oh gosh.
And it's not, especially here in Indiana, because we're hosting the NCAA tournament. Actually, the final game is happening as we're recording this. It's Gonzaga versus Baylor, I think.
Yeah, Baylor.
Yes. I pulled that out of somewhere.
Yeah.
I pulled that out of my butt.
My mother-in-law filled out a bracket. I never fill out brackets because I pay attention to the University of Utah and Utah State. And if they're not in, well, and I rarely go outside of their conferences to see. So like when it comes around March Madness time, I don't know like who did well in the ACC or the SEC or the Big East or any of that stuff. I'm just
Big Ten, yeah.
Big Ten. I just want to watch the games, and if any of my Utah teams make it, then I cheer for them. But I'll watch. I just enjoy watching March Madness. It's a good time. So and I'm glad it happened this year, because speaking of normalcy, jeez.
Yeah, I will. Hopefully the people who came to town have enjoyed our fair state and city and our Hoosier hospitality, but since I've had to go downtown in that area a few times recently, get out, and I would like my city back. No, just kidding. No, come, please spend money, but they
try hosting the Olympics one year.
Yeah, I can't imagine. It's been interesting though, because I live here. I drive downtown. I work downtown, so the routes and everything. I know where traffic generally gets jammed, where you can expect slow spots, and construction and
everything's just
alternate
turned upside
routes
down.
and that sort of thing. But because we have so many people coming in from out of town.
Oh, that goes right out the window.
Well, that too, but because like so many roads lead to downtown Indianapolis out on the highways, just it seems like every like half a mile there are cops waiting to catch out of towners that don't know the nuances of speeding on our highways.
Yeah.
So speed traps, it seems like every 5 feet out on the highway. And I'm just like, there was one point where Chauncey and I were driving to downtown for something, and I kid you not, within like a mile stretch, there were 3 different cops, each with somebody pulled over, and they all had out of state plates.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, you're not from here, so you don't know how to handle the
This is why I prefer watching these big events from the comfort of my couch.
Yeah.
I am home. I can have my snacks. I don't have to spend $30 on an order of nachos, and I can actually get decent commentary and see the score.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to worry about getting a speeding ticket.
Nope.
Right.
And I don't have to wait 15 minutes for the bathroom.
Yes. Like, I'm sorry to anybody who may have been visiting and got a speeding ticket.
I don't know.
I'm sorry for those of you that may have gotten speeding tickets, but I appreciate your revenue.
Yes.
Eventually, someone will have to. You'll probably end up returning the favor.
Yeah, probably.
Go out of town somewhere.
Until then, thank you for helping fill our potholes. So, anyway, that
was quite the tangent.
That tangent.
Anyway,
bringing it back around. Basketball.
Basketball.
Space Jam 2.
I have opinions about this.
You know what? I saw the teaser Friday. They just posted up like just an image, kind of the Looney Tunes like curtain, being like trailer coming tomorrow, and I'm like, okay, here we go. We know this is coming. And then the trailer dropped, and I started seeing it, trending on social media. So I was like, okay, let me go and watch this. So I pull it up and watch it, and you know what? I don't hate it on first glance.
It looks like Hanna-Barbera and HBO Max and Warner Brothers. It looks like Cartoon Network on an acid trip, frankly, because it's not just Looney Tunes. If you watch the thing, it's they throw in the Flintstones. There's the Iron Giant. There's oh my gosh, I like
it's
very
expanded. They've expanded it so that it's not just going to Toon World. I can't say Toontown because that's Disney.
The Looney Tunes world.
The Looney Tunes world is, in this case, it's kind of a pop culture multiverse.
Yes, that's why I said it's.
Yeah, so you've got LeBron taking the place of Michael Jordan. In the end, he is sucked into kind of this multiverse thing that's controlled by Don Cheadle for some reason.
I'll give him props. He looks like he's having fun. Don Cheadle does.
I love the name, which you have to say it out loud when you read it. It's like algae rhythm, so it's algorithm.
Ba-dum-bum.
Yeah,
Tony would be so happy with that one.
Yeah.
But so there's this multiverse. So he sends him to where the Looney Tunes live, and LeBron turns into a cartoon. But then he goes, I think it's cool looking, honestly. Because then he fits in better, I think. Unlike Michael Jordan continued to be Michael Jordan the entire time. especially because in cartoon form, LeBron's got the abilities that the other cartoons do, like, blow into his thumb and pop himself, back to
Although
size.
I think because that was such a big plot point in the first one, they're like, okay, we're just going to establish this and do something new, which I guess I appreciate that. I get the feeling though that this is going to be one of those, hey, this is a follow-up, we got to do it bigger and better, and it's going to be a mess. Now I could be wrong, and I could see it and be like, hey, nostalgia, but right now I'm like, this seems like, just from the trailer, I'm getting the feeling that it's going to be kind of convoluted. But
it
I don't know.
Could be, but with it being first look, we'll probably we're going to get another trailer later, and that's going to give us a better look at things, I think. But to me, it's like Space Jam meets like Ready Player One, and I'm kind of here for it.
I have no opinion. I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like.
Go find on YouTube if you don't want to watch the entire thing. Just go watch the big robot battle from Ready Player One. That'll tell you everything you need to know. So
yeah. So anyway, it's Space Jam: A New Legacy, which you either love it or you don't.
Yeah. I like the first Space Jam, even though I've never really been like a big Looney Tunes person. Obviously, my heart and wallet belong to the House of Mouse.
Yeah,
but
no, I liked the first one because that was my when it came out. That was I was really into basketball. I was playing in it's called Junior Jazz. It's sponsored by the Utah Jazz. It's basically Pee Wee, Little League, whatever you call it. And so I was big into that. I want to play in high school, and I loved the Looney Tunes, and that was when the Jazz were doing really well and going to the finals, and I was really big into that. And being watching basketball and being a fan there, so I was like, okay, I like Bugs Bunny, and I could give you a whole reason why Lola Bunny is actually the best character in that movie as far as the Looney Tunes are concerned. Because she's the only one who actually knows how to play basketball, and everybody when they talk about her, like, oh, she's just there to be sexy, and I'm like, no, you didn't watch the movie. She's actually there to save everyone's bacon.
Exactly.
And I was like, you guys are not paying attention. But anyway, so I mean, Michael Jordan, remember I said I was a fan of the Utah Jazz. I could go into that, but so the first movie that came out right around that time, and I was like, basketball was my thing. I still love it. I mean, I'm watching March Madness, for crying out loud. So I was into it, and I do enjoy that first movie. Maybe that's why I'm a little bit like, really, we're gonna do another one 20 some odd years later, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be fine.
It's possible. I guess
possible.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Later this year.
Maybe I'm just being a grumpy old lady.
Yeah.
I remember liking the first one. It was like my favorite thing in the world, but I was like 6, and I was really, because like the early 90s was really big into the whole mixing live action and animation. So that was like another one like that, and like I enjoyed it well enough, and I've watched it a few times since then. But I guess it depends on when I watched the trailer, and like
and the music was everywhere.
Yeah. I still randomly put on some of the Space Jam songs, like on YouTube.
I mean, people at school would do like skits with I believe I can fly. I mean, even now people still know that song, and it's the Space Jam song. Anyway, so there's the trailer. Check it out, and I guess we'll see how that goes.
It's a thing. It's happening.
Whether you want it to or not.
Yes.
I remember them talking about making a sequel to Space Jam for a long time now.
Yeah, and it's like LeBron really wanted to do it, and that's actually that's why he wanted to be traded to the LA Lakers so he could be close to LA and do the movie and not be out in Cleveland. Which, don't tell that to a Cleveland fan because you will get an earful.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Cleveland.
I
I really am
amusing.
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Evelyn, you're not that bad. I've been to your fair city now and explored some of it. You're not Detroit.
There's a lot of crap you guys just don't deserve. I'm sorry. That's just what it is. I've never been to Cleveland, but dang you people, you guys don't deserve it. Some of the, especially sports stuff. Oh, the Browns did better this year, so that's something.
Yes, they did.
Mm-hmm.
And Cleveland's
Anyway.
got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame going for it too.
That too. That too.
Yeah. So, anyway, that's a thing that's happening
Okay.
this summer. Is sequel to Space Jam. So, also coming this summer, and I don't think
I'm more excited
will
for this
be
one.
offending people. Is nostalgia, at least. Is we've got a, I guess, proper trailer, with plot and stuff, and not just flashy images of Loki, who is far from low key.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's a
That was
bad
bad.
joke. Yeah, sorry.
We all think it every time I say the phrase low key for so that that's very low key.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh dang it, why? But
Yeah,
anyway,
oh,
Loki starring Tom Hiddleston as the title character, and yeah, I'm digging it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
me too.
I
Excited.
love me some Tom Hiddleston, so sure.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, just based on what little we got, he just looks like he is going to be chewing the scenery of this left and right and just having a blast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, Loki is the god of mischief, and therefore we expect shenanigans.
Mm-hmm.
But this Loki is got the ability to time travel because he created all these. He broke the time stream in Endgame when they lost the Tesseract after the Battle of New York. So that Loki took off with it, created all these offshoots of all other, strange things happening. And so I can't off the top of my head, I can't think of the name of the organization it is in the Marvel, because I just want to call it the Celestial Time Agency, and I'm like, no, that's Doctor Who.
A time agency of some sort.
Yes, it's like that. It's something like that. And they're like, you broke it, you fix it. But Loki's like, no, I've got the ability to time travel here. I no longer have like Thanos wanting to come after me. My brother is not here for me to stand in his shadow. I'm gonna go off and do Loki things, and I'm here for it. Yes. I am here for it.
It's kind of like it's a little bit reminds me of WandaVision somewhat. Just although he's a little more malicious about it.
Mm-hmm.
So
he's fully aware of what he is doing.
Yes.
Yep.
And just doesn't care.
Yes, exactly. He's like, you're not gonna guilt him about anything that is going on. This is not. I mean, it's a similar principle, but it is very different. But there's shades of that in there that I'm like, oh
yeah. But I am here for it. Bring it on, please and thank you. Because
I love Loki since he was introduced. I didn't care if he was doing baddie stuff or if he was sort of kind of not helping but not really trust him.
That kind of whose side are you even on? It's like, do we
His
care?
own.
Not really. Yeah, his own side. That's
Yep.
whose side he's on.
That's the one thing you can guarantee. Now, if his side happens to match up with yours,
Perfect.
And you're good.
I guess
but
I
just,
guess good for you, depending on what you're wanting to accomplish.
Right?
Mhm.
I mean, if you're wanting to accomplish something bad, then that's bad for the rest of us. But
Yep.
Yep. Anyway, so that's exciting.
yes,
Yes.
that's very exciting. I'm just loving that Marvel is just stuff's getting kicked out almost on a seemingly regular basis. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, here we
Yes.
are, 2021. WandaVision. Oh yeah, here's Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Oh, and a reminder, Black Widow movie's still coming. Oh, here's Loki. I'm like, yes.
And there's
please,
so
thank
much
you.
more coming.
Grabby hands.
Mhm.
Which, again, after last year and having just nothing,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yes.
okay, we're getting, it feels like we're kind of gearing up to get back to normal.
Yeah.
Which just, it feels great. So,
Yes.
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So there is that. And then if you have not refreshed your feeds recently, latest episode of Gold Standard is now in the feeds. We're talking about he wasn't Sir Lawrence at the time, but now Sir Laurence Olivier's adaptation of Hamlet. Talk about families with issues. She thought Thor and Loki had issues.
Mhm.
Got
Oh,
nothing
boy.
on Prince Hamlet. How appropriate that we were doing Shakespeare after talking about certain skits last week with certain pair of Doctor Who actors. So I even brought that up in the episode. Like, I'm with Lauren Cooper when it comes to Shakespeare. But so that is in the feeds. If you are not a Patreon supporter for Gold Standard yet, you might want to do that because there is another Patreon episode
Mhm.
coming very, very soon with some familial voices.
Yep. Mhm. Yep.
Finishing out a certain trilogy that we've done 2 out of 3 already.
Yep. To paraphrase me, well, that ain't bad, but we're gonna finish it off.
Yep. So there's that. And then, of course, going to housekeeping. It is a new month. Crazy as that is.
Yes.
It means
We're-
book club updates.
Yes. April's book is the audiobook Flip Flop. And this month's, or for May, choices for May's poll are Resurrection Casket, Wheel of Ice, and I thought as long as we're doing Big Finish, I thought I'd add 2. Choice number 1 is Project Twilight, and choice number 2 is Spectre of Lanyon Moor.
Ooh, both of those are good.
Yes,
Yeah.
they are.
I'm actually in the middle of
Different reasons, but if you go and listen to Project Twilight, then you got to listen to Project Lazarus to finish it out. So
Yes,
That is
true.
true.
that
Just know,
storyline is pretty.
if you get in,
Yep.
you need to do the whole thing, otherwise you're missing out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, is that a duo or is that a trilogy?
It is just a duo, I believe.
Yeah,
Okay.
there are later stories that do kind of continue that
Right.
that plot line,
Gotcha.
but it honestly, and this is no spoilers, it kind of feels like, okay, they said, okay, here's the story, we finished it, and then they go back and say, no, we're gonna do more, and then they say, okay, now we're done, no, we're gonna go back and do more. And because I've been listening to Big Finish, the main range, all in order, kind of off and on, but I'm getting back on, and so like I'll be just kind of going in numerical order through it, and I'm like, oh, it's another story that goes back to the Project Twilight thing. Oh, I thought we were done with that. Well, we're gonna do some more.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not like anything major, but it pops
Gotcha.
up elements
but
of it pop up
Twilight and
again.
Lazarus are a pair.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and it's I will say no more because I feel like if I do, I'll spoil it. Yeah. So I'm not complaining that they kept revisiting it. It just was always like, oh, well, that's a surprise.
If I remember, because I haven't listened to either of those in a while. I think the end of one of them made me cry on my way home from work, but I think
Yeah,
of a different
I
one,
believe it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why we say like they're, Project Twilight and Spectre of Lanyon Moore are great for different reasons.
Yes.
Mhm.
So
I'm actually in the middle of the Spectre of because I couldn't help myself today. I'm like, oh, finish with this one.
Like
I wanna
I'm
start
already
with this one.
listening to one with these characters, so let's keep going.
let's get indeed, especially because the copy I have has trailers for a bunch of them, including Spectre of Lanyon Moore, and it's like, oh hey, the Brigadier. Yes, Brigadier's in this one.
Yes.
That's not a spoiler.
Yep, spoilers.
In Spectre of Lanyon Moore, but
Yeah.
it's
Six and the Brigadier.
Yep.
Yes,
So if that helps
actually
you,
interacting, not just walking to a helicopter.
if this helps you decide what you're going to vote for, so be it.
Yeah. So anyway,
You have until the end of the month to make your choice and change your mind.
Yep. So go vote, and may the odds be ever in your favor. I don't know.
Yep. And if it helps any, at least I believe both of those, but I know for sure Spectre of Lanyon Moore is available on Spotify for free. So.
Alrighty.
So there you go. And it appears Project Twilight is as well. So
Yay!
Well, there you go. It is
I was
readily
also
available.
That's also why I kind of scrolled to make sure which ones were available on Spotify.
Yeah. I mean, these earlier ones, I mean, they're pretty to download from the Big Finish website, but if money, you got to be smart with your pennies, people. So
and listening to them on Spotify, like and I mean, if you are listening to free Spotify, there are ads. There's not a lot of them, so it's not too jarring as far as taking you out of the story either. So. But we can get more into that in a little bit, actually.
Yes.
So that is
all
appropriate. So anyway,
I was gonna say.
We're just all over the place.
Giving something for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, I'm hopped up on chocolate cake. Anyway, moving on to feedback. We got feedback from Shalane. And she says she has also read most of Beverly Cleary's books. Yes, there's a Ramona and Beezus movie. She said it is pretty good. It's on Disney Plus if you want to see it. What else she says? Her favorite Tom Hanks movies are the Toy Story movies. Choice. Castaway, Saving Mr. Banks, League of Their Own Splash, Apollo 13, and Catch Me If You Can. And she says that she saw Forrest Gump in high school, but they edited it. So they took out some of the more risque bits with Jenny.
Yeah. That would happen.
Yep. And then she also says that if you really like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, then you should see Crazy Rich Asians, because it is essentially that, but with Asians instead of Greek people. So there you go.
Recommended.
Yep. So there is that's Oh, she said, I think about twins, because we're talking about Elizabeth Olsen and how she's her sisters are the twins. She says she was watching Sister and apparently there's an episode where the Olsen twins guest star, and but the sister was played by Tia and Tamara Mowry. I think I'm getting their first names right. Which they are twins. They have a little brother named Taj, and he played Michelle's best friend Teddy on Full House.
Yep.
He's a sibling of twin actors who was on Full House. Although Elizabeth Olsen actually was on Full House at one point too. But 90s sitcom twin crossover mishmash there.
It happened a lot.
Spot the twin in your 90s sitcoms.
Yes. That was before CG was fairly reliable, I guess.
You don't have a twin, that's okay. We'll just make one.
Yeah. Good times, all.
Yep. So, thank you, Shalane, for your feedback.
Yes, indeed.
So, moving on to this week's Meeks. I cannot speak. I should not have had that cake, or at least I should have stopped a couple bites sooner, apparently. This week's main topic, I blame Big Finish for the chocolate cake consumption, because as we mentioned when we did our Big Finish 101, is we would like to jump into actual audios and talk about specific stories. So that is what we are going to do this week, and hopefully I tried not to strong arm in the chat as far as which story we would do.
you really didn't have to convince do too much convincing, because this is a really good one, and Evelyn is
good. Yeah, I mean,
I love this companion.
It's
so
good Big Finish.
Mhm.
It's early Big Finish. It's in the main range. It's number 6 in the main range.
Yeah.
So it was really early in Big Finish. But it is Sixth Doctor. So it gives the Sixth Doctor a chance to show what the Sixth Doctor was capable of. It's a new companion, so you can start off fresh, and it's a pure historical, which Doctor Who had not done in a very long time in the TV series.
At this point when this came out, the TV series wasn't even on. This was
this was 2000 is when this was released. Yeah, but I mean, if you're figuring in Doctor Who continuity,
right?
This is the first pure historical that they had done in a very, very long time.
Meaning there are no alien monsters or anything. The only supernatural, quote unquote supernatural thing is the Doctor time traveling,
right? And the TARDIS. Yeah.
And the TARDIS is that's the only thing. Anyway, but yeah. So this one and so the name of it, the Marian Conspiracy. We better say that. And this one, like you said, this was the 6th one in the main range, and going we love Big Finish. Big Finish does amazing work. There were a few early on that were a little bit wobbly, I will say. Some people will be a little more harsh, but I'll just they were finding their feet. They were trying to figure out what worked and how they wanted things to go. This one, it feels like they hit they hit the ground running with it. Now it's not the first Sixth Doctor story that Big Finish did. I think there's one earlier with the Sixth Doctor and Perry, but this is the first Big Finish original companion, which works for the Sixth Doctor because he only had 2, and one of them were we have no idea where she really fits into continuity because wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
This is post. This is not during. It's during the Trial of a Time Lord run of stories, but at this point, the Doctor has not been pulled from the time stream to go on trial yet.
Yes.
This is but it is post Terror of the Vervoids, because he does reference
Mhm.
genocide, which he considers that with killing the Vervoids in that story, which is part of the Trial
Yeah.
of Time Lord. So
So don't get too attached to where does this fit in continuity, because it's Doctor Who and time travel messes with everything. As we will see in this story, there is some elements of paradoxes and erasing your own grandparents.
Yeah, well, and the TARDIS not landing where the Doctor expected. In this case, 3 years too soon. So
and just realize, I mean, as much as like sometimes we'll sit here and say, oh, what time period in history would I want to visit? And think of a modern person going back in time to certain time periods, and there's certain things about you that if you have a cell phone, that could be considered witchcraft, and that might get you killed, or things like that. But it's like the consequences of visiting historical time periods, which Doctor Who has done before. If you watch any of the William Hartnell historicals, there's always some bit of peril for the Doctor and the companions, because they just don't know. I mean, they know academically what happened in history, but they don't know how to live in that time period, because they don't know the culture, the norms, the whatever it is that's going on. So I guess we should kind of go over the story a little bit. So the Doctor, well, it opens with Dr. Evelyn Smythe, who is a professor of history, as she's in the middle of a lecture, and there is a beeping noise coming from somewhere in the classroom, and she's just like, okay, could you turn that off, please? And the Doctor's like, don't mind me. And I could just imagine, like, I mean, she says it's a lecture hall, but I can just imagine, like, people, like the students even in the class going, turn that off. What the?
If it it's like, because since Evelyn was a Big Finish created, you can figure what she looks like kind of based on who voiced her, who unfortunately is no longer with us, unfortunately.
Maggie Stables. But
Maggie Stables.
She left an amazing body of work.
Yes, she did.
With just Big Finish, but she also, I mean, there's other things that she's been in,
but
like
she
theater
is,
and stuff like that. But
she's a staunch lecturer. She's teaching, I believe, college level or university level history. Her specialization is the Tudor period, which is
Henry VIII through, well, who was after Elizabeth? James?
Elizabeth I?
Yeah, who was after Elizabeth I? I think it was I don't know, I'd have to go look that up. I always like stop at Elizabeth, because everyone's like, Queen Elizabeth I is amazing, and she is. Evelyn and I are in agreement on that.
Yes.
So
but you can imagine this she's in her 50s, so she's not old by any means, but she's seasoned, she's mature. So you can imagine, like, if the Doctor showed up like in the middle of like Professor McGonagall giving lecture, and like imagine the kind of reaction she would have. That's what Evelyn is reacting.
Yes. I when I was telling Jared what we were talking about, and he was like, which Doctor is it? And I'm like, oh, it's the 6th Doctor, and it's Evelyn Smythe. Like, oh, well, what time period is she from? That name sounds Victorian. I'm like, well, she's actually a professor of history. She's one of the older ones.
It's the year 2000.
And
is
I'm
where
just saying,
the Doctor plucks her from.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, like, think Professor McGonagall with chocolate cake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Instead of a tin of biscuits, she does chocolate cake.
Yes. So I mean, and she's stern, but she's also very kind and generous to her students. She's like, because she even says, like, she was married, but they end up getting divorced. They never had any kids, but she's but she knits for her students. She kind of treats the students, because because she also looks over the dorms. She kind of treats them like they're her grandkids, in a sense. So, she is strict, but she's also very loving and warm. And in fact, there's a later story. It's Doctor Who and the Pirates, of all things, which that's neither here nor there. But she is like trying to help one of her students who is
We're gonna
going
have so much
through a
fun
hard
covering
time.
that one at some point too.
Yes. But there's the funny part of it, and then there is kind of a heartfelt side to it where she is helping one of her students who's having a bit of a crisis in her life, which but like that. But that's just how Evelyn is, and like even in this story, at the end, like she meets these young kids, these young guys who are going to be burned to death for being Protestant in Queen Mary's reign.
Yeah.
And she's like, is there anything we can do to save them? And the doctor helps them get out of there.
Yeah. She was pulling a Donna at Fires of Pompeii before Donna at Fires Pompeii.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
that's exactly like what I always thought. I'm like, she reminds me of Donna before Donna was around.
Yes.
Yes. And it's just you just love her. And the more, I mean, this is, like we said, this is her first story. She just gets better from here, but this one is just such a good one.
Yes.
For her.
It's
a
great
right
companion introduction. Yeah.
And I mean, and the story stems from the doctors investigating some kind of paradox, and it's Evelyn, or Nexus Point, that indicates that something's gone awry in history, and it has to do with Evelyn's ancestors who lived during the Tudor period. And so the doctor's like, I gotta go fix this, and Evelyn's like, I'm going with you, because she goes very quickly from you're nuts, because he's talking about time travel and meeting Queen Elizabeth and Sir Francis Drake and all these historical figures, and then to I'm coming with you because I want to meet good Queen Bess. And all that. And it's so charming, because the doctor doesn't have to spend a lot of time convincing her. And I mean, she's not like the fresh-faced, naive. I mean, I don't want to say that the companions are naive, because anybody walking into that TARDIS and going, holy crap, what's going on? But it's kind of a different take on it, because she is mature and because she has more experience. But she is still like, wow. Yeah, as anyone would be. So that's the plot. That's why they end up going back to the Tudor era of England, and exploring the time and the place, and figuring out what is going on, what is wrong with history, and why Evelyn is in danger of being erased, a la Back to the Future.
Yes.
Instead of it being a picture, instead of it being a picture fading, she is fading slowly. Like she's saying, she's had headaches, and she's kind of fading in and out of existence randomly, which I'm kind of, I mean, I guess it's a good thing they noticed, because she pulls out her family history that she's done, and like everything's blank. Like,
yeah. She sees text literally disappear from the page where there was stuff written down before. So
so they go back to the Tudor
what they
period.
think is going to be Queen Elizabeth, likely not long after her coronation, which would be 1558 ish. Considering Mary dies in November of 1558, so so sometime after that, when Elizabeth I has become queen. So
in fact, I'm going to look that up and get the precise date. She ruled she was the ruler from November 1558 until her death in 1603. So it was like right after Mary died. So anyway, so then they get there, and the doctor's like, I'm going to go to the Queen's court and see what's going on. You stay here, because it's dangerous for Evelyn to leave the TARDIS, because she is fading in and out. And she's like, well, I'm not going to stay here. So he rigs up some kind of gizmo to put in her handbag.
Pokery.
Yes. jiggery pokery.
For this doctor not to carry a sonic screwdriver, this doctor several times during his run, both in TV and Big Finish, shows to be quite proficient when it comes to jiggery pokery.
Quite. He kind of has to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have the sonic to just point at things and be like, haha, fixed.
Yes. So and then Evelyn's like, no, I'm here. This is my field of study. I want to, see what England is like and be among the people, which, I mean, I understand that from a historian point of view, but after listening, you're watching so much Doctor Who, I'm like, maybe you should just stay in the TARDIS. That is a bad idea. But we would have no story if they didn't do that. So
it's like, no, I'm gonna take my handbag, which I stuffed full of things before we left, including my toothbrush and some cocoa, and apparently sweetener for said cocoa, and my bright orange cardigan, and I'm gonna go slum with the common folk at a pub.
Yes. Yeah.
She's just very matter of fact about everything. Like when the doctor first shows up at her class and then back at her, flat or wherever she lives, and he's all like, she's like, explains how she's a descendant of someone with connections to Elizabeth I, and plans on showing that evidence to the doctor, and then they realize that something is causing her family history to disappear, and then she has her sort of bigger on the inside moment, but she's not like so taken aback by it. She just takes everything in stride, and I love that. She's just like, I'm going with you. Oh, it's bigger on the inside. Okay, let's go. So she's it helps that she is, and the doctor even calls her this later, she's one of the most well prepared companions he has ever had.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, she knows the time period they're going to, and not just like in a passing like Jeopardy trivia type of way. They're like, this is her specialty. She knows the dates and the people, even the people that we probably, like you say Elizabeth I, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, Queen of England. But if you drop the name of like the French guy, that I can't think of his name.
Which you're proving your point because you can't think of it.
Exactly. So you're like, so it's like, you drop names like that, and people are gonna be like, who? So anyway,
so they go into so the doctor's going to the Queen's Court, and Evelyn's gonna go to a pub and meet the common people, and you've listened to enough Big Finish, especially these early ones. You know how the kind of the cliffhangers work. So like the doctor is going to the Queen's Court, and he finds out that a doctor has been summoned to attend the Queen because she's pregnant. And if you know anything about Elizabeth I, she was famous for being the Virgin Queen. She never married, and she never had children. So we're like, oh, something is wrong with history. And then later, and then mostly the same time, they're, the people in the pub are having a toast, and Evelyn goes, to good Queen Bess, and then everybody goes quiet.
Yeah. It's a unique cliffhanger for Big Finish. It's not like somebody hanging off the edge of a cliff, or bomb about to explode. It's like, oh no, somebody said something in a crowd of people, and all the people just went, what?
It's like, and they're like, oh no, and then they start yelling at her, she's a traitor, and then you find out that this is not Queen Elizabeth's times. It's actually her sister, her older half sister, Queen Mary, who is known for being Bloody Mary, if you know anything. And there's a lot of strife because you hear about it in the story, because Mary was a staunch Catholic, and she was very determined that everybody
anybody not Catholic.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't believe Catholicism, well, she's going to, quote unquote, save their souls by sending them to hell, I guess. Which I'm like, okay, that doesn't make any sense, but sure. Anyway, well, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, so I mean, there's just been this back and forth. Of I took a class on the history of England in college, and we talked a lot about this time period, and it's fascinating. It's also sad and kind of scary, just how intense, and just how, like, okay, this king is Protestant, so everyone's gonna be Protestant. Well, now the queen is Catholic, and everyone who was Protestant and everything that was legal before is now illegal, and it's like, how the anyway, you don't think about it too much because it's gonna make your head hurt. Anyway, but poor Evelyn has just declared her loyalty to Queen Elizabeth, and that's a no. And then the doctor finds out, oh no, we're in the time of Queen Mary. So yeah, so that was I really do like that cliffhanger, because it really feels like, even though I've listened to this so many times, I get there and I'm like, oh no, what happens? I know she lives. I know they don't kill her, but oh no, Evelyn, how does she get out of it? Oh right, because then it turns out a couple of the guys in the pub are they actually
sympathizers.
Yeah, they're sympathizers, and they want to put Elizabeth on the throne, who at this time period is currently under house arrest, and she doesn't actually show up in the story, but she does play a big part in the story overall. So I love that cliffhanger. I love that they just build up the suspense, because up until that point, Evelyn is just enjoying herself, and I mean, they just say the queen. They never say her name. But she's I mean, and she makes some mentions of random, talks about Coco, and she talks about she mentions things like her students, or things like that. So there's a few anachronisms, but not enough to like make the people kind of wonder about her, although they do, because this older woman wandering into the pub.
Yep.
But no, it's just like she's kind of found some kindred spirits, and she's going to she's talking to him and just enjoying herself, and then all of a sudden
she becomes an official dead mother for the two of them.
Yes, and then she says to good Queen Bess, and just everything just poof. And it's one of the best Big Finish moments in all of Big Finish, and I will fight anyone on that one. Yeah, but then later the next episode starts, and she gets taken into the they're like, oh hey, you're a sympathizer too, cool. So they go take her to their little hideaway, but then the Protestant reverend, who's part of the group, is like very suspicious of her, which I can understand why. But again, like you said,
so
Molly,
twists her words though.
Oh my god,
she gets so frustrated with him. I was getting frustrated, and I've heard this one before. I'm like, no, you're not listening to what she's saying.
No, indeed. And maybe it's because like this is what I think is because they're in this conspiracy, and they're like everything's secretive and in code and all this stuff, is they're all just so overly suspicious, and they are, I mean,
they're almost as paranoid as the queen.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, technically they are doing something illegal, so they assume everybody else is too, or everybody else is trying to worm their way in and find out, and they're gonna get killed. So I can understand why they're paranoid. Doesn't make it any less annoying in the story. And this happens a lot in Doctor Who historicals. There's always somebody who's just like so overly suspicious of Team TARDIS that it's like, okay, could you just knock it off? Like, you stop, go away. But it's understandable why that happens. So anyway, so and then in the meantime, the Doctor is over with Queen Mary, who keeps saying that she's having a baby, and she talks a lot about whatever it is she's doing, and they do a really good job as portraying her as like she's very myopic about everything that she wants everyone to be Catholic. She wants everyone to follow the true religion, as she terms it. And she wants power. This is kind of what I got from it, is she wants power. She wants everyone to love her. but she is not willing to extend that to anyone else. And she's like, it's like saying, I'm the queen and I'm in charge, and so you just have to deal with it. Which is not a very good leadership quality if you want to be a leader. Especially if you start telling everybody who doesn't do what you say, I'm gonna burn you at the stake for no other reason that you didn't do what I said.
Yeah.
But
like,
you know,
I locked my sister up because even though my father says that she's, she was his kid, I don't believe it. I think my father is full of it. She looks like she looks like her mother's,
yes,
personal musician instead.
Yeah, the saga of the Tudors is very well, it's a soap opera, and it's just unfortunate that this dysfunctional family happened to rule England at the time, and their whims kind of had huge repercussions for the whole country. But there's the Tudors. Anyway, so but she, the doctor kind of gets into her good graces by being charming and not really twisting his words, but carefully selecting his words so that she thinks that he's really one thing, but he's really talking about Time Lord type things. So it's interesting, but so he gets in there. Meanwhile, Evelyn she makes cocoa for the boys in the hideaway, and I'm just like, okay, Evelyn. I mean, it's such a charming scene, even though in my mind I'm thinking, okay, and she even says like chocolate doesn't come to Europe until much later, or to England, but like you're introducing it now. But I guess these kids, they can't do anything.
Yeah.
It's fun anyway.
Yeah. Well, and then at the end, she's like, I'd like to, and the doctor's like, I'm taking you home. She's like, heck no, you're not. She's like, I'm keeping traveling with you. And he's like, okay, well, where do you want to go? She's like, someplace where they have chocolate. She's like, Mexico, maybe. And I'm all like, well, hot chocolate and the Mayans, that didn't go over well for the first doctor. So
yeah. You better avoid
go see the Aztecs.
The Aztecs.
Yeah.
Maya Inca Tex is when you lump them all together.
You don't just want to be making cocoa for anybody.
No, because you might wind up engaged.
Yes.
Right. So anyway,
there's several. And they can do this in Big Finish, a lot easier. But they even just like, we can make jumps to to previous stories, but then they'll also occasionally put references to other incarnations of the Doctor, like they're in London, and Evelyn mentions this will all burn down in the 1600s, and the Doctor's like yeah, because it's never been confirmed, but implied in several previous stories that the Doctor is at least partially responsible for the burning of London.
Yeah.
Yes, I love.
Can neither confirm nor
do.
deny.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it when they do those little side remarks. I'm like, I love this show.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's just so much fun. Like, and like any time, like if the people, these historical figures, if any of them were actually listening to what the Doctor's saying, they would like not listen to him at all, or they would not. They would, she would Mary would throw him in the tower for being insane. But it's just fun for us, for the fans to be kind of like, haha, they mentioned the thing while you're enjoying this really good story. But yeah, so anyway, so Evelyn's in there with the conspirators and just making them hot chocolate. The Reverend is very suspicious, because that's just because, well, I guess he kind of has to be, because he's a Protestant Reverend, so his his life is very much in danger. But again, he's kind of annoying. And at one point Evelyn mentions, oh, I have these pills, or they find them in her handbag, and like, what are these things? Like, it was like, is it poison? Like, well, I guess it could be. So they they're gonna be like, oh, we're gonna send her back and get the doctor out of the queen's good graces, because this is his friend and they're gonna try to poison her. I'm just sitting there giggling because I know what's coming. So the doctor calls Evelyn, sends a message to Evelyn to have her come to the palace, to the queen, and she's there with her handbag. Not before she has an episode where she almost fades away again.
Mm-hmm.
Another great cliffhanger. Wasn't that a cliffhanger? So
I think it might have been.
It might have been.
Yeah.
I'm not 100%
I
sure.
think so.
Yeah. But anyway, so then she fades back in because the Reverend brings her bag to her, or he sends one of the boys to bring their bag to her because she left it. That's why she's fading out, because she doesn't have the jiggery pokery with her.
Yeah.
And so she gets there, and the French guy comes there like, asks the queen, would it be, what would happen if somebody brought poison into your presence? Oh, wouldn't we want to lock them up? So he has Evelyn unpack her bag, and there's the bottle of pills. Like, look, it's got your name on it. It's poison. You even said so. Just like, and then the doctor's like, oh, by the way, that's medicine for her. She has bad headaches. And he even gives, and the queen says, I have bad headaches too. Can I? And he's like, well, here, you can have one. It'll help you. And she even says, I've never felt better.
Yes. It just goes to show just how much that they don't know about science and medicine yet.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And how there can be things that can help you in the correct dose, but if you overdo some things, yes, it can be harmful to you. Like technically apple seeds contain cyanide, but you have to eat a large number of them for it to hurt you.
Yeah, well, and like when Evelyn was talking about those pills with Leaf and Crow, those are the boys, the young men who were, and they were asking questions. You kind of tell that she doesn't want to give too much away, or be like, not mess up history or try to. It's kind of hard to explain this to people who they have no frame of reference for this, because this is centuries
before their time,
I mean, there's just no medicine, or the medical technology just isn't there for them yet. So and she's not really sure. I mean, this is her first time travel, so she's not really sure what is good to okay to say and what's not. But she likes these kids. She's like, oh, she's just she's making them hot chocolate. It's sweet, and she doesn't want to be. She's also doesn't want the guys to. Doesn't want the guys to be like, we're gonna kill you for stumbling onto our conspiracy here. So she's kind of stumbling through it the best she can. So yeah, and then the queen is, she is so happy she has the doctor as her advisor. He's been such a good help to her, and she values his advice, which is remarkable for them only being there less than a day, but never mind. And
that's the doctor for you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so the queen decides that she's going to arrange for the doctor to be married.
Like, doctor, you made my headache go away with your tablet. I'm gonna get you a wife.
Yeah.
I know this lovely girl.
And it's her lady in waiting, who her last name is Whiteside, and the doctor's been going by John Smith, and the ancestor of Evelyn's that she was talking about is John Whiteside Smith. So she's like, oh, you're going to be my great some odd grandfather. And then the doctor realizes your ancestor was executed by Queen Mary. Like, oh.
But when she says that, she's like, when she's rattling off all the greats, however many it is like 6 or something, and you could just hear the smile because she's just loving the idea.
Yes.
She's just
Doctor
loving the doctor
being her
squirm and think about this.
She's just playing with him.
Mhm.
It's just so funny. She's just taking the piss with him, and it's hilarious.
Yes. And then it gets very dark soon because the doctor's like, I'm going to be executed by Queen Mary.
Yeah.
And there's another cliffhanger.
Mhm.
Anyway, but so to the next episode, the Reverend Thomas, he sends messengers to claim that because their conspiracy is being found out, and they say, oh, the doctor was in on it too, so they send the doctor and Evelyn to the Tower of London, good old tower, the good old tower. And I love that they're that's the big finish. You can hear the crows in the background,
And those crows don't need batteries.
No, they don't. Those are the actual crows. And I
This
love.
is not the doctor's first trip to the tower, and won't be the last.
No, it will
Nope.
not. And it's so funny. Evelyn is like, I could pick the lock. No, you can't, because there's a bar on the other side. You can't use hairpins. What about a secret passageway? You're the historian. When have you ever known of someone escaping using a hidden passageway? So it's just the whole time, and it's like you feel like that there should be something behind all this banter, like a plot point, but there's not. It's just they're bantering back and forth, and
They
these
are two people becoming friends.
Yes, and they're both very intelligent,
Mhm.
and Evelyn doesn't put up with the doctor's crap because she's seen it from all those college kids, or, university students, and she just is like, yeah, we're gonna figure this out. We're going to get out, and we have to warn them, because they realize that the Frenchman might be the one who's going to poison the queen, and they're probably going to poison the sacraments, because she's going to mass. So when he's with her, he's gonna slip something into the bread and the wine, and that'll be the end of it. Later, they come to realize that was probably a dumb idea, because the French ambassador, he too is Catholic, and would a Catholic actually taint the Holy Sacrament? No, they would not.
They had the method right, just the person doing it wrong.
Yes, but they escape through the Thames, and it's just, and Evelyn's like, do you know how nasty this river is even now? And I'm like, oh, it's probably worse then than it. I don't know. I have no idea. I know
Before
it has
filtration existed. So
yeah, well, I know it has a reputation of just being gross. So yeah.
Most major rivers like that go through large cities usually aren't the cleanest.
Yeah.
Looking at you, White River down the road.
Yeah. So
I love how Evelyn jumps off, their transport down the River Thames, and she just gets a little, squishy in the mud. And the doctor's like, "That's not how you dismount. You do it like this." And he ends up, like waist height in the water. Okay.
You were saying, Doctor?
Yeah. For this story taking place during, Bloody Mary's reign, it's actually pretty funny too. So it's definitely got that going for it. So they escape, and then they get to the church, where the queen is at mass, and they find like Sarah, the lead, the lady in waiting, and the Reverend Thomas are there, and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, and then they start putting two and two together, and it was Sarah was going to be the one to poison it, and had been given a potion. And this one, I heard her explanation. I'm like, wow, you are not the most intelligent person on the planet here. So the Reverend Thomas had given her this potion, and it was going to save everyone's life. I was like, what did you think was going to happen, lady?
It was supposed to it was supposed to give her dreams that would expand her mind and make her see the error of her ways.
I think we're a little early for LSD there, lady.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh
A little
my
bit.
Right?
little bit, yeah. So it turns out that and because there was a moment earlier with Sarah like talking um about like how if you committed to your your husband, and even though that Mary had made a lot of these marriages um invalid because they, especially like the clergy, because under Catholicism the clergy do not marry. They're supposed to be celibate. So she said it's illegal. So all these people who like had these clergymen who had married under Protestantism, their marriages were null and void and made the children illegitimate, and all these things, which again, this is why this is such a big problem. And
Well,
turns
and it
out
went back and forth so many times too between reigns.
right. It's like, and that's why this time period is so messed up. Also, it's fascinating because they kept changing it based on what the particular monarch believed, and it's like, how does a normal person just keep up with this stuff? You can't.
You get as ticked off as Bugs and Daffy with the duck season, rabbit season.
Yeah.
Protestant season, Catholic season, Protestant going back and forth like this, and it's like, okay, am I married this week? Like, come on. That turns out Sarah is married to the Reverend Thomas Smith. So Sarah Whiteside, Thomas Smith, and but their marriage was revoked,
considered void,
but they still, she still loved him. They still loved each other. They still have, they're still human. They still have human relationships. Who'da thunk it? And it turns
like
out
when they got married at the time, it was perfectly legal, and therefore that marriage was consummated legally.
Yes, and they still like met with each other, under the radar, or tried to, and she was pregnant. She's gonna have a baby. Because the whole story comes out, and Mary's like, oh, it is a sin to be married to a man of the cloth, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay, Mary. And I mean, and at this point in the story, and I don't know if this is historically accurate at this point in the story, Mary's mental function just kind of starts to slip a little bit, or I don't know if it's her mental function or just her something. Just, I'm like, okay, now you're going off. You're going off the rails here.
Very, I would say without more information, it's kind of hard to be like.
Yeah, I mean, history is a little.
Yeah, an actual like diagnosis of some sort of mental illness, because you don't want to necessarily say that like religious fanaticism in itself is not a mental illness.
No, but the point I'm getting at is, and the doctor even says that because she came so close to this one plot to kill her, it's she looked for plots in everything, and it did affect her a lot of ways. And history is a little fuzzy on what actually happened, but I'm saying like here in the story they start to see a suggestion of that. So it's not the religious fanaticism per se. It is the someone tried to kill me, therefore everyone is trying to kill me.
Right. Yeah.
So
she thinks people are wanting to kill her because of her religious beliefs. So it's kind of a chicken egg thing.
Yeah, it's a cycle. So it all just kind of, and like I said, the reign of Queen Mary, there's a reason she's called Bloody Mary. It wasn't a good time in England, and it's not a good time for Protestants, and I would honestly say,
the Protestants had to flee to other countries.
Yeah, they had to just leave. But I'm looking at it, and I'm like, if I'm Catholic at this time, and I don't know, maybe at the time, because even the Protestants were like, well, yeah, burn heretics, but other heretics. And I'm like, oh gosh, the more things change, the more they stay the same. It's just not so much religion, it's other things. But we don't need to get into that. So it's like, I don't know, if I'm Catholic and I see someone using my beliefs or my in the name of my beliefs doing these terrible things to people, I'm just kind of like, I am not with them. But yeah, I don't know. It's a sticky subject, and it's one that, you know, there have been volumes written on this time period and what happened and why. So if you want to go digging into that, feel free.
Yeah. It's a very sticky. It can be a very sticky subject, but I think they do a very good job about not getting into the weeds of it and just kind of like this is our interpretation of what happened, kind of you know, what Mary was thinking at the time, and go ahead and extrapolate that out however you want on your own.
Yes. So they don't come out and say this is what happened. They just put little hints of this is what could have happened. So and like I said, if you want to go down that path and do your own research and your own reading, like I said, there are tons of books out there. I've done some of that research, and it is fascinating. It is sad, and I really feel sorry for everyone involved. Mary, Elizabeth, all of Henry's wives, all of it. But I just like, it's just such a mess. It's also, like I said, it's a soap opera, and soap operas are popular for a reason. But anyway, so you know, they realize that, you know, Mary realizes that, you know, her lady in waiting is trying to kill her, and this is someone she trusted. But she also, because Sarah is pregnant and Mary thinks she's pregnant, she's like, I can't in good faith, execute you because I would also kill your child. So she sends Sarah into exile to go serve Elizabeth, who's also under house arrest. Thomas Smith, however, he is another story. And Mary gives him the opportunity to recant and to become Catholic, and he refuses because he's not. I mean, those are his beliefs. He's not going to let them go just because his life is threatened, and he is executed. And poor Evelyn is like, these are my ancestors, which is like. Sometimes you do some family history and you find out some things that you might not have wanted to know.
Yep.
And then they go save Crow and Leaf because they're locked up, and Evelyn doesn't want them to die because she's their dead mother.
Yes.
So
they pull a Fires of Pompeii, and
they do.
Come with me if you want to live.
Yep. And they get them to was it Switzerland? I think
it's Germany.
Or Germany, or no, yeah, it was like Bavaria, I think.
Yeah,
I can't remember. They said it, and it was one of those names that is now Germany, or that part of
that
Europe
area ish.
Yeah. Because they were like, but that's foreign. They're like, well, there's a lot of Protestants that have relocated, so it won't be so bad.
And you can come back in a few years when Mary is dead and her sister is taken over.
Yeah, and they basically tell them, like, everything that's going to happen, because the doctor's like, well, they're on the TARDIS, so what can at this point, might as well.
Yeah.
And so that's the Marian Conspiracy, and it's brilliant. It's just so much fun, and it's if you love pure historicals, love it when Doctor Who does pure historical stories, this one definitely scratches that itch. There's intrigue and suspense and all these things, and there's no monsters. There's no the only alien is the Doctor, and I mean he has the TARDIS, and Evelyn has the gizmo that keeps her from disappearing. And that's about it. And it is a historian. It's like having Barbara back in the TARDIS, only she's a little older and a little more, just it's so good. It's just so good.
Yeah.
Now and having said that, I'm like, that's why I liked Barbara so much, and that's why I like
She's a great companion.
Yes.
Well, obviously we'll see and talk. We'll hear her again.
Right.
We discuss other Six and Evelyn stories, like Doctor Who and the Pirates.
Yes.
If you've
I mean,
heard that one, you know why I'm laughing. If not,
Mm-hmm.
you'll get it when you
Oh.
listen to
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
if I am having a bad mental health day, Doctor Who and the Pirates is one that I pop
Yes.
in, and not just because of the humor and the antics of it, although that is a big thing, but also kind of like the more heartfelt parts of it too. That one's a really well balanced one, and
Yeah.
it's just fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, Evelyn gets the range of humor and heart and getting to be competent. And I love the bit where they're running away from the tower, they're running somewhere, and Evelyn goes, I can't run with my knees, and the doctor's like, usually it's ankles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, their chemistry is great, their banter is great, and you can just tell that Colin Baker and Maggie Stables are just having a blast doing this, and you hear that in all of the stories that they do together. Oh my goodness, you can tell that they're friends, as well as colleagues and co-actors in these stories.
And they've got that I would assume that this was recorded first. I guess they could be recorded out of order, but I would think, the first meeting of a Doctor and Companion would be recorded first. But you would not know that Evelyn is a brand new companion who's just been made up, and she's working with Colin Baker, whose Doctor is established. Even though Doctor Who's been off the air for quite a while, he was the Doctor on TV for a run. So it's, people know the Sixth Doctor if you watched his run, but there's no awkwardness.
No,
it feels like they have been together for ages.
Yeah, this definitely, it feels like Evelyn could have been a TV companion, and it's just like, okay, we're coming back to do Big Finish, and we're gonna pick up where we left off. But no, she's a Big Finish original companion, and it works just so well. And this was like, I kind of get the feeling this was maybe like the first hint of Big Finish thinking, oh, we can do new companions and we can come up with their own backstory and all these things and do all kinds of interesting things with them. And I think because Evelyn works so well, that's why we get all these other companions that we've had 20 years with Big Finish, because they've done a lot of Big Finish original companions, and all the Doctors have had new companions of one sort or another. So it's good. It's a good starting point for Evelyn, but it's also a good starting point for Big Finish creating their own characters for the own companions for the Doctors. So it's also pretty significant in that way as well.
Yep. But fair warning, don't listen to this one hungry, especially if you've not had dessert.
Yes, because in addition to hot cocoa, Evelyn mentions her chocolate cake recipe, which uses melted chocolate in the recipe rather than the powdered mix, and that's what makes the difference. That's why we were all like, chocolate cake.
Yeah.
Like,
so
I want Evelyn's recipe because I want to try it.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, come on, Big Finish, don't you have that listed on here I'm on the Marian Conspiracy page on the Big Finish website, or even on the wiki, like, where's the chocolate cake recipe? I know it's in here.
Yeah, really.
And I can bet you any money that recipe is stored somewhere in the TARDIS, so in case the Doctor gets the hankering for chocolate cake.
Yes, it's gotta be.
Yeah. Yes, I was so moved by Evelyn's talk of chocolate and cocoa and chocolate cake that when I went to go get dinner earlier, I purposely went to some place where I could get chocolate cake with my dinner.
and you got the nice chocolate cake.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it's so good. Yes, Cheesecake Factory, chocolate fudge cake. Not a sponsor, but I'll give him the free plug anyway.
Yes.
Slice of cake the size of like Chauncey's hand. Ugh, so good. I don't know if it's good as Evelyn's, but it's good.
Yes. So anyway, so go slice you up a slice of chocolate cake and get a cup of hot cocoa and go fire this audio up, whether you find it on Spotify or on the Big Finish website. Again, it's one of the earlier ones, so it's pretty. It's the ones that it's very discounted. It's like $3 to download. So.
But it is on Spotify for free.
And it is on Spotify for free. So check that out. We cannot recommend it highly enough. It is it's such a good one. And it's one like I said, I've listened to it several times by now. And every time, especially that first cliffhanger, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? It's like, oh yeah, she survives.
Yeah.
But for a minute I'm like, what do we do?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I know there's more Evelyn after this, but still it's like and this is this is just good, and we've mentioned this before when talking about Big Finish, and especially our Big Finish 101, that if for some reason you're listening to this and have not listened to any Big Finish yet, and are still like, oh my god, there's so much, where do I start? This is a good starter.
Yes.
For Big Finish in general.
My second Big Finish I listened to when I
I think so too. I think the first I ever listened to, because I didn't start listening to Big Finish till late in after I watched as much TV Doctor Who as possible. And I think because that was the year of the 50th, I think Light at the End was my first Big Finish, but after that I was like, well, if I'm gonna do Big Finish, let me start with my Doctor, the Sixth Doctor. And I was looking at the range, and I think people even recommended this was a good Sixth Doctor one to start with. So, but it's just good starter Big Finish regardless of the Doctor.
Yeah, and like I said, because there were a few, it took them a little while to kind of figure out, okay, this is what we're gonna do. But I mean, the fact that they got to number 6, and this is where it's like, okay, I feel like you're hitting the ground run. You got your feet under you. That speaks a lot. And then I mean, there are even a few before, like the one right before it, the Fearmonger, which is Seventh Doctor one. That one's pretty decent.
I remember being terrified. I won't spoil anything for Fearmonger, but I remember being terrified for Ace in that.
Yeah. So anyway, so like I said, this is a good place to start. And Evelyn's got some really good stories as you go. But it's just fun. Like I said, I've been last few years I've been listening to all of the main range in order. I kind of sometimes I take a break and then I come back to it, and I'm kind of coming back to it. But it's just kind of interesting to see kind of the progression of how of what Big Finish has done. Like at first they started out really kind of, okay, let's stick with what we know. Let's stick with the companions and the kind of stories we can tell. I mean, we can do a few interesting things, but let's stick with this. And then they just are like, we're gonna do this and we're gonna throw this in, and just the whole shooting match, and it all just works. They're not afraid to do offbeat things, and I mean there are a few that are like better than others, but on the whole,
I mean there's a couple that are I'm kind of looking at a couple towards the tail end of Paul McGann's run with Chris and
that one had some issues because the series, the TV series was coming back, and they weren't sure what was going to happen to the Big Finish, so they kind of had to let go of a few plans that they had made, which is unfortunate because you could see some good plans coming in, but they're still worth listening to.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Anyway, we could gush about Big Finish forever.
Oh yes.
and I'm sure, and we will, and we'll get back here and review a few others, and if any of our
not be the last of our Big Finish reviews.
No. And if any of our listeners like have a favorite that they want us to cover, let us know. Or because there are so many Big Finish audios. I mean, they just kind of wrapped up the main range. and they're gonna do something a little different. But if you want us to listen to one and review it on here, let us know. Send us feedback about your thoughts on Marian Conspiracy if you've listened to it. Also, a tiny pet peeve of mine. This is I fully admit that this is just just a quirk on mine. Marian is spelled Marian in this case. Some people spell it with an O at the end. It's like no, that's something different. So just as a
when you go
kindness to
looking
me.
for it, make sure you spell it correctly.
Yes, because you will. I don't know what you'll find if you spell it wrong, but
Or you could just do Big Finish Main Range number 6 because it's 6 doctors, so
you
that makes it easy to remember.
That's true too. But yeah, I'll see that spelled with the O, and I'm just like twitch. But anyway, so yeah, send us in your thoughts on the story if you've listened to it.
And if you've got a chocolate cake recipe, send it that way too.
Yes,
Yes.
I will. I've got a bunch of birthdays coming up. In fact, I got to make cupcakes later this month for a big family birthday party. I will take a chocolate cake recipe if you've got a really good one. Otherwise, I'm just going to be doing a mix. But anyway, feedback. Send us feedback. 5ishfangirls@gmail.com is our email address, and also visit our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com, and find links to our social media, Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. You can leave comments there as well. You can download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also on Spotify, if you're listening to Big Finish and think, hey, I need to go check out the latest 5-ish Fangirls, we're there too. And you can also help support the podcast through donations from Patreon. You can shop at our Amazon store, get an Audible account through our affiliate link, and also buy our merchandise in our merch shop. And we're always adding new goodies over there, so keep checking that out. And as always, we thank you for listening. We thank you for your support and sending feedback, whatever it is that you do to interact with us. We love it. We love you guys, and we are glad that you are enjoying what we're doing, because that makes it more fun.
Yes, very much so. All right. Well, with that, we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Troy saying goodnight.
This is Chrissy saying goodnight from Salt Lake City.
This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. The 6th Doctor actually should probably be happy that they didn't end up meeting Elizabeth I quite yet, because, he and Elizabeth have got a history.
Yeah.
Or will have a history.
Have history, yeah.
With a different face.
Right. Oh my gosh.
We'll blame in the Saigon.
10's gonna have some splaining to do to his 6th self.
Yes, indeed. If they ever do a multi-doctor story with 10 and 6, he's gonna have to have a little chat with his future self.
That actually sounds fun. Now I kind of want that. Big Finish.
Yeah, Big Finish. If you're looking for ideas,
Here you go. You're welcome.
Just send us a copy. Just send us a review copy.
Copy. Yes.
Will work for audios.
Yes.
You have been listening to the 5-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at the5ishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official 5-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at 5ishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.